Elena Undone begins by presenting two seemingly separate lives that will collide with profound consequences. Elena Winters, a married mother and pastor's wife living within a conservative church environment, and Peyton Lombard, an established lesbian writer dealing with the grief of her mother's death. This dual opening immediately sets up contrasts of repression and openness, faith and independence, mourning and yearning. We first see Elena's son Nash refusing to participate in an anti-gay protest, signaling early that Elena's family life contains seeds of dissent from the church's doctrine, while Peyton is at her mother's memorial, searching through her belongings and encountering a tape labeled Women's Glory Project that will later link her. Early scenes show Elena's domestic tension with her husband Barry. They'd been trying and failing to conceive, and Barry's cold rebuke after she gets her period highlights how their marriage has become transactional rather than nurturing. Peyton, meanwhile, is navigating her own wounds, flashing back to her emotionally troubled mother while cleaning out her things. This mirrored depiction of two women stuck in lives they didn't fully choose resonates deeply with LGBTQ viewers, especially lesbians, who may recognize the claustrophobia of heteronormative expectations and the hunger for authentic connection. Elena confides in her friend Tyler that she and Barry will pursue adoption instead of trying for another biological child. Tyler's dialogue about soulmates and twin flames foreshadows Elena's imminent meeting with Peyton, hinting at fate and cosmic connection. When the women first meet at the adoption agency, the exchange of lost keys and business cards seems incidental, but is charged with possibility, a subtle reflection of how many queer relationships begin in everyday, accidental encounters. Peyton's best friend Wave later drags her to a love guru, who turns out to be Tyler, where Elena and Peyton's paths cross again through casual conversation. Elena learns that Peyton is gay, and Peyton learns of Elena's marriage, but instead of retreating, they maintain contact. Peyton invites Elena to collaborate on her late mother's Women's Glory Project using Elena's photography skills, which provides a socially acceptable excuse for them to spend more time together. Over picnics, wine, and photo sessions, they reveal their backstories. Peyton's agoraphobia and difficulty trusting Elena's conservative upbringing and self-denial. This slow build is crucial because it frames their relationship as emotional intimacy first, not simply a sexual liaison, countering stereotypes about same-sex attraction as sudden or deviant. As the friendship deepens, both women grapple with their feelings. Peyton phones Wave for advice about confessing her attraction, while Elena in parallel begins exploring lesbian websites but insists she isn't attracted to them, only to Peyton. This is a powerful depiction of how many lesbians and bisexual women experience desire for a specific woman before adopting a label, and how identity can be relational and emergent. When Peyton tries to draw a boundary by suggesting they stop seeing each other, Elena responds with intense emotion, calling Peyton her best friend and refusing to let her go, a moment that dramatizes the difficulty of separating platonic and romantic intimacy when you've found a soul connection. Eventually, Elena admits she has a crush and then, in a surge of passion, shows up at Peyton's house and kisses her, initiating a full physical relationship. The film devotes considerable time to their first sexual experience, not as titillation but as a point of no return. Peyton warns once we go there, there's no going back, underscoring how for closeted women the first same-sex encounter is not merely physical but existential. It validates a whole identity and threatens the structures built around the old one. Elena, however, says she doesn't want to go back, which signals her readiness to shed her old life. Over the following weeks, their affair flourishes but also strains under secrecy. Peyton questions Elena about her marriage's intimacy, and Elena confesses that she and Barry no longer have sex, which for Peyton affirms that their relationship isn't simply cheating, but Elena's true partnership. Yet Elena still goes on vacation to Hawaii with Barry, and Peyton writes her intimate letters while she's gone. Letters that Nash discovers. This subplot about Nash drinking and stealing under the stress of hiding his mother's affair is a reminder that secrecy exacts collateral damage on loved ones. Eventually, Millie sees Elena and Peyton kissing in a park and informs Barry, triggering the implosion of Elena's double life. Peyton proposes breaking up because of the chaos, but Elena begs her to imagine a shared future. Yet the film acknowledges that leaving a heteronormative marriage is messy. Elena breaks up with Barry and argues that Nash needs the real us, not the fighting couple. 6 months later, we see the fallout. Peyton and Wave bump into Nash and Tori in the park, and Elena appears pregnant. Peyton fears she's been deceived, but Elena explains she's divorced and used IVF with Tyler's help, wanting a child to anchor her new life. This twist reinforces that queer families can form through many paths, and that motherhood is not incompatible with lesbian identity. The closing picnic scene with Peyton, Elena, their infant, and friends signals a hopeful new chapter of authentic living. Lesbians can relate to Elena Undone because it portrays in granular detail the arc from self-denial to self-acceptance. Many women who grew up in conservative or religious settings recognize Elena's initial compartmentalization. Marriage to a man, motherhood, church life, all while some part of the self stays unexplored. The film validates the experience of falling in love with one woman as a catalyst for discovering your sexuality rather than as an anomaly. It also normalizes the idea that middle-aged women can come out and build new lives, countering the cultural script that identity must be fixed in youth. Women in general, regardless of orientation, can relate to the story's themes of self, sacrifice, longing, and the difficulty of claiming space for personal desire. Elena's struggle mirrors the broader female struggle against being defined solely by relationships to men, as wife, mother, congregant, and shows the liberating power of forging a self on one's own terms. Peyton's agoraphobia and guardedness also resonate with viewers who've been hurt or marginalized, highlighting how trust and vulnerability are universal challenges. The question of why society hates seeing two girls in love is woven throughout the film. In Elena's world, homosexuality is explicitly condemned by her church, which reflects real-world institutions that police female sexuality to uphold patriarchal norms. Female desire threatens these norms by removing men as the central axis of women's lives, undermining male entitlement to women's bodies and emotional labor. Thus, society often either erases lesbian love pretending it's just friendship, or fetishizes it for male consumption. Elena Undone resists both tendencies. It neither hides the intimacy nor frames it as spectacle, but instead presents it as a natural outgrowth of emotional closeness. By grounding its narrative in everyday details, adoption agencies, photo shoots, family arguments, the movie humanizes queer love and makes it relatable beyond niche audiences. It also interrogates the cost of secrecy, Nash's acting out, Peyton's loneliness, Elena's spiritual crisis. In doing so, it critiques a culture that forces lesbians to hide, showing how harm radiates outward when authenticity is suppressed. The final scenes emphasize chosen family and resilience, themes central to LGBTQ culture. The picnic with friends and baby suggests a community-based model of life after coming out, which is a hallmark of queer survival and joy. The film also challenges myths about lesbianism and motherhood. Elena's pregnancy via IVF and her continued relationship with Peyton demonstrate that being a lesbian does not mean rejecting family or children, but reimagining how those elements fit into an authentic life. This aligns with contemporary LGBTQ advocacy around family diversity, same-sex parenting, and reproductive rights. Another significant aspect is how Elena Undone portrays sexual awakening in midlife as neither shameful nor predatory but mutual and consensual. Peyton initially hesitates to cross boundaries precisely because she understands the stakes for Elena, countering the stereotype of the recruiting lesbian. This ethical tension shows respect for the complexity of coming-out stories and models healthier dynamics. Ultimately, Elena Undone is about twin flames finding each other against the odds and the ripple effects of their courage. It speaks to anyone who has ever lived a double life or felt pulled between duty and authenticity. Lesbians see their struggles mirrored and their hopes validated. Women see the possibility of self-reinvention. And audiences in general are invited to question why love between women is still treated as scandalous rather than celebrated. By ending with reconciliation, motherhood, and a public picnic instead of exile or tragedy, the film participates in a new wave of queer cinema that foregrounds joy, survival, and community, rather than solely pain and loss. In that sense, Elena Undone is more than a romance. It's a cultural artifact marking the shift from clandestine queer stories to affirming, complex depictions of lesbian life.